Estimadas autoridades, profesionales, profesores, miembros de la comunidad universitaria, participantes, buenas tardes. Les doy la más cordial bienvenida a esta sesión virtual, como motivo de la inauguración oficial del segundo Congreso Internacional VDC, evento organizado en coordinación con el CITIC y el Círculo de Estudios de Virtual Design and Construction de la Universidad de Lima, y que cuenta con el respaldo del SciFi de Stanford y del Stanford Center for Professional Development. Mi nombre es José Vidal, soy copresidente del Círculo de Estudios VDC de la Universidad de Lima, y en esta oportunidad estaré acompañándolos como su maestro de ceremonia para esta primera fecha del Congreso. Esta segunda edición busca promover la metodología VDC y su aplicabilidad en la industria de la construcción, a través del desarrollo de 4 ejes temáticos: promoviendo VDC en el mundo, optimización de procesos con VDC, la integración tecnológica con VDC y VDC en megaproyectos. El objetivo principal de este evento es fomentar el intercambio profesional y académico en la implementación de la metodología VDC a nivel internacional, en dirección a una industria constructora líder en innovación y resultados. Para el desarrollo exitoso de este congreso, se contará con la presencia de destacados expositores internacionales, quienes compartirán sus experiencias en su especialidad. Para esta primera sección introductoria de este evento, es un honor poder contar con la presencia del doctor Óscar Quesada, rector de la Universidad de Lima, quien nos brindará muy amablemente unas palabras de bienvenida. Adelante, rector.
Muchas gracias, José, por tu presentación. Doctor Alexandre Almeida del Sabio, director de la Carrera de Ingeniería Civil de la Universidad de Lima. Señor Omar Alfaro Félix, presidente fundador del Centro de Innovación Tecnológica para la Construcción. José Vidal, representante del Círculo de Estudios de Virtual Design and Construction de la Universidad de Lima. La metodología de diseño y construcción virtual, el VDC, en sus siglas en inglés, constituye una apasionante integración de punta, de vanguardia, entre el diseño, la construcción y la operación, desde el nacimiento, desde la gestación misma de un proyecto hasta su realización, ¿no? Para lo cual se apoya pues en modelos virtuales en permanente elaboración y en permanente desarrollo. Yo no soy ingeniero, yo vengo del mundo de las humanidades, de la filosofía concretamente, pero me asombro y me admira ver cómo en estos años, gracias a stakeholders académicos como la Universidad de Stanford, y gracias a muchos contactos de la carrera de Ingeniería Civil, venimos colocándonos pues en uno de los lugares más importantes dentro de nuestro país respecto a lo que es la promoción de este modo de construcción en términos de desarrollo virtual, integrando nuevas tecnologías, integrando procesos de gestión colaborativa de proyectos y orientándonos hacia una industria constructora en permanente innovación y con cada vez mejores resultados. Por segundo año, nuestra carrera de Ingeniería Civil, por segundo año consecutivo, organiza y presenta este Congreso Internacional de VDC. A partir de los 4 ejes temáticos que ha señalado José Vidal, nos interesa, pues, como lo decimos, integrar estos elementos para promover la metodología VDC y su aplicabilidad en la industria de la construcción. Bien sea a partir de la promoción global del VDC, a partir de la optimización de sus procesos, de todo lo que implica la integración tecnológica en VDC y en megaproyectos. Yo espero y deseo con toda la expectativa del caso que realmente logremos superar las perspectivas del primer congreso y lograr un intercambio muy fluido, un intercambio muy sincero, tanto en el ámbito profesional como en el ámbito académico, para cumplir con esos objetivos que hemos señalado. Yo quiero sencillamente agradecer el apoyo del Stanford Center for Professional Development y quiero darle la bienvenida a los expositores, a los panelistas de diferentes países, sobre todo de América, que se van a hacer presentes en este nuestro Congreso Internacional en el que tantas cosas hay por discutir, por conversar y tanta pasión, ¿no es cierto?, por crear soluciones, por crear métodos, por crear formas, fórmulas, formatos de desarrollo del VDC. Alexandre Almeida, desde su ingreso a la universidad, ha sido un promotor entusiasta de esta materia y creo que la universidad está acompañándonos en este momento tan importante. La universidad está atenta a estos desarrollos, puesto que van a impactar, estoy convencido, van a impactar, van a inspirar, ¿no es cierto?, nuevas maneras, nuevos modos de construir sostenibles, responsables y eficaces. Con esa esperanza declaro pues inaugurado nuestro Congreso Internacional de Virtual Design and Construction. Muchísimas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, doctor Quesada, por sus encarecidas palabras de motivación, fuerza y, ¿por qué no?, de esperanza en la industria de la construcción aquí en Perú y en Latinoamérica y en todo el mundo. Realmente es un honor poder contar con su presencia en este evento, así que le agradecemos nuevamente. Muchas gracias, doctor Quesada. Ahora invitaremos al PhD Alexandre Almeida, director de la Carrera de Ingeniería Civil de la Universidad de Lima, quien nos brindará también unas palabras. Adelante, ingeniero.
Muchas gracias, José Vidal. Buenas tardes con todos. Muchas gracias, doctor Oscar Quesada, por sus palabras. Y ahora iré compartir algunas también. Entonces, buenas tardes con todos los presentes. Gracias por asistir a esta segunda edición del Congreso Internacional VDC, organizado por la Carrera de Ingeniería Civil de la Universidad de Lima. Y como ya se mencionó, el principal objetivo de este congreso es lograr un intercambio profesional y académico en la implementación de la metodología VDC a nivel internacional y también nacional, para mejorar la eficiencia y la eficacia de la industria de la construcción. En esta oportunidad me gustaría contarles brevemente cómo es que llegamos a lograr una estrecha colaboración con Stanford, principalmente con Martin Fisher, e o que nos permite estar reunidos virtualmente hoje, espero que futuramente, o próximo ano, seja presencialmente, em futuros eventos relacionados a VDC. O primeiro acercamento que tuvo a carreira de Engenharia Civil da Universidade de Lima com a Universidade de Stanford foi aproximadamente a fines de 2017, quando se conversou a possibilidade de que a Universidade de Lima organizara a primeira edição do programa virtual VDC em nossa casa de estudos e a terceira a nível de América Latina, é decir, já tínhamos 2 edições anteriores e Stanford tinha o interesse de desenvolver uma nova edição. Esta edição do evento começou de maneira exitosa em março de 2019 em la Universidade de Lima, com 26 profissionais, e contou com o pleno apoio del CIVDC de Stanford e principalmente de seu diretor, o Dr. Martin Fisher, quem também nos está acompanhando o dia de hoje. Ante a corrida que temos tenido e a expectativa que tuvo este primeiro evento, se programou o desenvolvimento de uma seguinte edição em nossa casa de estudos, pero com miras a alcançar um público muito maior. É assim que a segunda edição do programa VDC começou em março do ano passado, com 127 assistentes, é decir, passamos de 26 a 127 assistentes, de los quais 124 se graduaram em dezembro do ano passado. É importante mencionar também que de los 124, 12 alunos foram 12 alunos da carreira de Engenharia Civil. Então, desde esta edição, a colaboração e coordenação foi diretamente com o Stanford Center for Professional Development a partir da segunda edição em adelante. O êxito de los eventos mencionados fortaleceu muito a relação entre ambas instituições, entre a Universidade de Lima e Stanford, e abriu as portas a novas colaborações também. É assim que se propuso o desenvolvimento do primeiro Congresso Internacional, desenvolvido em setembro do ano passado, e para os que se tuvo uma participação promédia de mais de 800 pessoas conectadas a lo largo de los 4 dias do evento. Adicionalmente, em fevereiro deste ano, tivemos a oportunidade de que 9 de nossos alunos da carreira de Engenharia Civil, selecionados previamente, participar em um programa um curso de robótica da maestria Sustainable Design and Construction da Universidade de Stanford, enfocada em la evaluação do impacto em la implementação de um robô em projetos de construção e em projetos de infraestrutura. Então, essa é uma demonstração que esta relação está crescendo cada vez mais e, a lo largo de minha apresentação, um pouquinho mais adelante, desenvolverei um pouquinho mais esta colaboração e os resultados de dicha colaboração. E, tendo em conta lo mencionado, é que se decidiu desenvolver este ano, em 2021, a segunda edição do Congresso Internacional VDC e a terceira edição do programa VDC também a realizar-se em mês de agosto do presente ano. E para a qual esperamos superar novamente os 100 participantes e aproveito a oportunidade para que os que todavia não se inscreveram para invitarlos a participar de esta tercera edición del programa VDC. Sin más que decir, espero que puedan disfrutar de estos 4 días de ponencias con los 19 expositores expertos en el tema. Muchas gracias a todos los asistentes, y paso ahora a José Vidal para continuar con la programación. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, PhD Alexandre Almeida, por sus palabras, por sus encarecidas palabras que nos motivan e inspiran siempre a continuar trabajando como carrera, como universidad, en general como país en la industria de la construcción, y también por su excelente trabajo dentro de la carrera y la Universidad de Lima. Ahora daremos por concluida esta parte introductoria y daremos pase a la sección de ponencias. Pero antes daré unas breves pautas del programa. Son 4 ejes temáticos del Congreso, tal como ya se ha visto en las publicidades, uno por cada día, y por cada eje tendremos 4 exposiciones. Las preguntas serán respondidas al finalizar las 4 presentaciones durante la mesa de discusión. Las preguntas las pueden dejar en la caja de preguntas, ubicada en la pestaña inferior del Zoom, y será bueno que las direccionen a los expositores, debido a que serán respuestas al final. Asimismo, se contará con traducción simultánea, por si desean escuchar la ponencia en español, activar la opción de intérprete ubicada en la pestaña inferior también, más o menos por este lado, y también si desean escuchar todo en inglés, pues activar la opción en inglés. También está la opción de escuchar la versión original al desactivar la opción de intérprete. Ahora sí, daremos por iniciado esta sección de ponencias de nuestro primer día, nuestra primera fecha de Congreso Internacional VDC, que tiene como eje temático Promoviendo VDC en el mundo. Empezando con el programa, invitaremos al doctor Martin Fisher, PhD en Ingeniería Civil por la Universidad de Stanford, ingeniero por el Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, profesor de Ingeniería Civil, Ambiental e Informática y director del Center for Integrated Facility Engineering de la Universidad de Stanford. De hecho, el Dr. Fisher tiene diversas publicaciones, artículos en revistas indexadas de gran prestigio, y pues es el mentor por excelencia de la metodología VDC. Es gracias a él por quien tenemos el programa internacional VDC y la razón por la cual estamos reunidos en este gran congreso. Sin más que decir, le damos la bienvenida al Dr. Martin Fisher. Adelante.
Thank you, Jose and Alexandre, and also thank you very much, Rector Quesada, for the support of this, I think, very important initiative around the world, and especially in Latin America. It is very inspirational to the rest of the world when we can show the very good examples of implementation and also the collaboration between academia and industry that we see in Peru and beyond in Latin America. So thank you very much for that. So I will, since this is the opening of the Congress, I will share some examples of VDC and also talk a little bit about how it's spreading around the world, although several of the other speakers in this session can, in a way, almost do a better job because they are also in the middle of it in their respective markets. So because I see really 2 ways in which VDC is spreading around the world. One is, of course, through the education program. Another one is project by project, company by company, person by person. By good applications on a project, more and more people get convinced from their colleagues on projects. And of course, that's happening also through the implementation of VDC from the students, professionals that are in the VDC programs. And so I want to share a couple examples, so to show how VDC is spreading project by project, and also address a particularly important aspect where I've seen VDC shine is in the design construction interface, and then reflect on that in terms of what it means to people familiar with design and people familiar with construction. Through that, I hope to also show you the language that is being used to share good examples, because we all want better projects, as Rector Quesada rightfully said, and for that to have more good examples of projects, we need to have more good practices. Yes, we need to avoid mistakes, but just by avoiding mistakes, we don't yet have successful projects. So we need to share examples of good projects, that means we also need a language to talk about those good projects in a consistent way. And I think VDC provides that language. So as we have seen in the last few years, I think almost all the successful projects I'm familiar with, they were managed with something like virtual design and construction approach. So we really believe that VDC is how you should manage your projects today. Because as you know, right, it combines the objectives of the client and of the project team with how those are achieved through integrated current engineering, project production management, and building information modeling. Or put another way, right, it combines the management of objectives, people, processes, and information. And lately I've been asked a lot, what's the difference between BIM and VDC? Since in many parts of the world that still seems to be considered the same. But it's not, right? BIM is an absolutely important part of VDC, but it's just a part of VDC. So if you think, or if you run into somebody who believes BIM is the same as VDC, just ask them, you know, to be successful in a project, all you have to do is manage the information, right? They will most likely say, no, we have to do more than that. Well, then that's the difference between VDC and BIM. VDC is a project management method, and BIM is, in my mind, an information management method. Absolutely important for a successful project, but not enough. And so that's how I basically simply explain the difference between BIM and VDC. I found it extremely helpful to be able to talk about a VDC implementation really rapidly. Of course, any rapid summary omits important detail, but the point is you want to be able to convince others to pay more attention to it. And for that, you need to have a quick story. And so I will illustrate a couple of quick stories, and then I will share an example of VDC that hasn't been shared so much, and then also reflect on what it means for design and construction managers. This is actually a first VDC project that I know. They didn't call it VDC at the time because it was being developed. It was being done while we were defining VDC in academia. And Roberto Arbulu, who is on this call, could tell this project, this summary better, because he was really leading person on this implementation almost 20 years ago, I believe. Right, Roberto? That was close to 20 years ago, if not 20 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah. So on this project, they had a very critical challenge in terms of the uncertainty in the rebar production schedule and the duration of the rebar production schedule. And many of you have seen me this present before, so it'll be a quick summary and then crash course for others. So to address this challenge, of course, if you're right on a large concrete project, if you have problem with rebar production, it was not in a way a problem. It was just typical rebar production was not good enough for this project. Then you miss meeting the milestone for concrete work, and then means you may not open your project on time. So to avoid this problem on this project, they really brought people, processes, and technologies together in a new way that had not been done up to that point. They realized that they had to create a pool-based way of producing rebar digitally and physically that would cut that time from 30 days to 5 days, and also cut the installation cycle time from 10 days to 2 days to improve the predictability of the work on site. So that process had to be supported by a multidisciplinary team. You can see the participants there in the iSession part. They had to have that team confirm the constructability of a detailed design in 1 day for each batch of rebar that was produced each week. For that, this team needed absolutely reliable information, which is why they created a fabrication level BIM that allowed them to confirm that 75% of the rebar could be pre-assembled and that 100% of the clashes would be resolved each week. So you can see how without the information, the people cannot do their job. Without the process, it's unclear what job the people need to do. Without the people doing that job, the process will not work. So you can see how all of these elements of VDC are inextricably combined. And how I think you can summarize in one page the gist, I believe, of a VDC application. Hopefully there was a reasonable summary, Roberto, since you were actually there and I just was on the sidelines watching you.
It was a good one, yes. Some deja vu here.
Yeah. It's still a great story, even today, I think. So here what you see is the application of VDC for something that, a particular task, and that are really quite close together in terms of detailing and fabrication and installation. But we also see VDC applied to connect design and construction at a sort of wider scale. A couple of years ago, we helped a project developer, development team, architect and builder in the very, very early stage of a project. They were still trying to figure out what is the right design of the project to already align the developers, architecture, and construction perspective. And this was with on the project office building in Warsaw, Poland, but this was done in our lab at Stanford in a 3-day work session. So here they really were concerned. So this is very early in the project, so they're still also working out what are the right objectives. So that's why you see them a little bit more vaguely here. They wanted to create market-ready office building completed. I don't know whether that date is still okay, by May 31st, 2022. For that, they needed to build an office building with maximum flexibility in terms of office configurations, but also possible reconfiguration from office to, say, hotel or things like that on budget and schedule. So they really needed to understand the implication on budget and schedule from different design configurations and different construction strategies. So in this 3-day ICE session, they wanted to explore all of the design and construction strategies that the different participants could come up with. And then they measured the number of developers, architects, and builders approving a design and corresponding construction strategy. And ideally, they wanted to have 100% approval for the good ones. Or they were hoping to get to a strategy or several strategies that everybody would say, yes, this is okay from my perspective. For that, they really needed to have be able to very rapidly generate a new design and schedule option, less than 10 minutes, and they needed to understand those schedule options really, really fast, basically right away, certainly less than a minute. Because without that, right, they couldn't have this kind of fluid interaction and explore many options. And so therefore, they needed to have a 4D model of each design and corresponding optimized construction schedule. To make that possible, they needed to have a BIM ready at the level of construction knowledge that was needed to be tested so that they would have no remodeling time in BIM. So I'm showing here, right, the strategies, the actions the team decided to do, and how they knew that those strategies would pay off right away. And then they could possibly intervene to make the rest of the workshop more successful. So right here, you see the application of VDC that spans a much wider project horizon and is at a very different stage in the building. And we've seen basically applications of VDC across all of the really many segments, many phases, all the phases by all the main parties, and also in all building types, buildings, infrastructure, industrial, and so on. And I'm sure you will see examples from many parts and phases and many types of projects over the rest of this conference. So I want to share an example that hasn't been shared so much because it points of the application of VDC, because it points to application we see more and more of, which is exploring and enhancing the use of prefabrication, but really in support of client objectives. So I think this is a nice example in this respect. And then I will reflect again on changes that it means for these people managing design and people managing construction. So here, this was for University of California in San Francisco. And the example was shared with me by DPL Construction. So from a client perspective, this building was intended to bring, or is intended, or is bringing now together psychiatry, neuroscience research, and clinical outpatient care, and really drives advancements in new treatments for disorders of the brain and nervous system. Basically, really new kind of building, bringing this type of research together with many different kinds of labs and technologies for research, focusing also on patient experience, more so than just the efficiency of providing services and research, and basically turning UCSF into one of the largest neuroscience research centers in the world. So it's sort of the ambition of the client for this project. Here you see a bit of an idea, get a sense of the project in terms of scale. Pretty good size building, quite heavy budget, as you can imagine, for this type of structure. So basically a 6-story building in a urban setting. This project had a construction management at risk agreement, but with lots of integrating project delivery language. There were incentives included. Several of the trades were done with design build and many others with design assist. So there was, at least contractually and organizationally, quite a good focus on bringing design and construction together. Collaborative big room environment was set up, and BIM was the main contractual deliverable. All the 2D documents that were still needed for various purposes were created from the BIM, not the other way around. So that was a bit of the context. There was a main challenge. One of the main challenges for the project was there is a high labor shortage for these for the technical trades, which then has a chance of leading to low productivity and therefore high costs. So the project objective for one of them, for the project team, was that they didn't want to have detrimental cost impact from labor shortages. And of course, also no quality reduction. So they explored the prefabrication across many trades by robotically fabricating interior partitions offsite. So they had several forces for and against this plan. There was definitely some experience with VDC and prefabrication by the general contractor, by the mechanical plumbing partners, and significant offsite fabrication for plumbing systems had been demonstrated on a recently completed hospital project in San Francisco. But then there was limited specific experience with respect to prefabricated interior wall assemblies. And there was concern about the panel sizes and weights given the urban setting. And the installation around the whole coordination of the mechanical electrical piping work was a concern, because typically you have, it's always a challenge, right, on a technically complex project in terms of finishing the interior work, but also the utilities and how you sequence that. In addition, there was a very high sound requirement, sound performance requirement, which also had to, which the project team had to pay a lot of attention. Probably something I should have listed earlier. So the team and came up with this idea of a prefabricated partial height wall. So to prefabricate as much as possible of the interior walls, but not impede the space that's needed horizontally, right? It's always this tricky thing. How do you how do you make the horizontal and the vertical work efficient and productive? And so here they had the idea of partial height walls to maximize prefabrication of the vertical elements as much as possible without impeding the ability to also fabricate the mechanical electrical piping work that some of it, a lot of it is installed horizontally. Because before they always had to sort of choose one or the other. And this also then simplified the work, as you will see, enabled offsite mechanical piping rough-in, actually also electrical. And in a way forced them, but also enabled them, and everybody saw the purpose of creating fabrication level BIMs that fed the robots that made these walls. And it also forced them, so to say, to really pay attention to the sound transmission, this STC requirement, as it's called in the US. So here's what this looked like by fabricating these partial walls and then connecting them with posts to the ceiling and the next floor. They left this space here open for bringing in prefabricated horizontal assemblies in terms of mechanical, electrical, and piping assemblies. And in this way maximized the efficiency of installation and also simplified the work for all the trades. So here is what, for example, this vertical plumbing, offsite fabricated vertical plumbing looked like. And then they also roughed in the electrical work at a nearby production facility. They had to meet this STC 45 requirement, which is quite a high sound transmission requirement, which they were able to also model and simulate to see which prefabricated, where they needed to avoid sound transmission openings, so to speak, and how prefabrication could minimize those openings, and what other choices they needed to make so that the sound transmission was not somehow imperiled by the construction strategy. So they then eventually were able to show with field tests that their simulation and their design was okay, other than the doors. They also showed that the electrical rough-in work was the simplest kind of electrical work, so-called NICA 1, classified in the US. In the field, it would have been much more complex work, which wouldn't work with the labor shortage. They also simplified the work for the mechanical and piping rough-in, and ended up with higher quality. So they could use less labor that needed to be less qualified and still produce a high quality work on schedule and budget. So to put this in the VDC framework, as you saw before, the client wanted to create a world-leading research facility by combining psychiatry and neuroscience. So a project team had to build a world-class building, for example, with very low sound transmission on budget. So the team had to, in weekly eye sessions with the owner, architect, structural engineer, GC, and mechanical electrical piping subs, confirm the prefabrication of interior walls with STC 45 and NICA 1, simple electrical tasks. They had to create a fabrication level BIM that enabled robotic pre-assembly and offsite electrical rough-in, and that also integrate the offsite fabrication and sound performance requirements, so that they could prefabricate 80% of the partial height walls, or 80% of the walls in the building were partial height, and 80% of the mechanical and piping were pre-assembled. And they also, in the process, had to figure out where the sequence that didn't have obstacles for MEP rough-in on site. So we see this kind of application of VDC more and more. It's kind of in between the two spans of design and construction interaction that I've shown before. And I think I see this concern in many parts around the world where it's increasingly difficult to get skilled labor on site. And it's necessary to create high quality constructions that are performing in many dimensions with less skilled workforce. So I hope you found this example, these three examples illustrative in terms of giving you ideas for your own VDC application or future research. As I was reflecting on this, and I briefly showed this at the launch of the Red VDC a couple weeks ago, but I thought it's worth reflecting on it again. As I was reflecting on this, I realized that what we are asking projects that use VDC to do is bring together people that are familiar with design management with people that are familiar with construction management, because we're bringing really the two perspectives together. But if you think about it, right, design and construction managers, as you will see here, actually are used to quite different mindsets and tool sets and objectives for their work and what they need to be good at. Right? If you want to be a good construction manager, you have to be really good at dividing and conquering work, right? Because you have to break up construction work into chunks and you have to install it in parallel or sequential workflows. If you're good at that, you have a good chance of being a good construction manager. You have to be schedule driven. Of course, also very safety, quality, budget conscious, but there is very clear milestones and targets for your work. So construction managers are used to clear and common performance criteria, safety, quality, schedule, cost criteria. It's fairly clear completion goals and criteria. You can see work is done or not. They're used to managing each discipline. Of course, you need to manage many disciplines, but any one time at any one place, hopefully you only have to manage one discipline. If you are not good, if that's not happening, then you were not good at dividing and conquering. And then you need to be good at moving on to the next task or used to just moving on to the next task when something is done. And tools are planning, scheduling, estimating, documentation tools. If you think about what a design manager has to be good at, design manager has to be good at integrating, the work from different disciplines, architect, structural engineer, many others, builders also, has to be solution driven, right? You have to look at many different solutions, have to be exploratory to find good solutions. So design manager is used to trade-offs between performance criteria, because there are many performance criteria they have to meet, and it's almost never possible to meet all of them 100%. So they have to become quite good. A good design manager has to be used to dealing with these trade-offs. They have to be good at dealing with open-ended work. How do you know when design is complete? Maybe if you did one more version, then you would find a much better solution, or maybe this would be a total waste of time. You have to manage multiple disciplines all together. You have to, design managers keep thinking about the design decisions they made last week. Maybe there is still something better out there. Moving on is not always in their DNA. And they're using quite different technologies compared to construction. 3D BIM simulation technologies dominate. Of course, now, right, with VDC practices, these two perspectives need to be brought together. And so in the VDC program, right, we are learning how to bring those two together. But we're also learning, if you're coming from construction, how do you think as a design manager? If you're coming from design, how do you think as a construction manager? Because as you noticed right from this conversation, what the two have to be good at is actually quite different. And what they're used to is also quite different, right? Just look at, for example, the very clear completion criteria by construction manager versus the open-ended work of design manager, or the clear performance criteria, the trade-offs, integrating versus dividing and conquering, and so on. But this is really, I think, fascinating time to be in design and construction, because we can now, I think with VDC, bring these two perspectives together, which allows us, as you've seen from the example, to create much better solutions than if we treat them separately. And I think this is basically a summary I just provided. So to give you an update here on the global effort, after certifying from 2009 to 2020, together with SPS and PPI, 857 professionals in small groups. We have been able, with the support of many universities around the world and with the support of the Stanford Center for Professional Development, being able to reach many more practitioners in several markets, with the first of these large programs done in Norway, and we will hear from Elif, my partner in the university at NTNU there. You've already met Alexandre from the University of Lima, and then you will also meet Peter from Switzerland. I think a big thank you here goes to the industrial mentors, the experts like Omar, but many others around the world that have given their time to guide this new set of students through these, what we call large-scale VDC programs. It also is providing really very interesting and unprecedented, I would say, access to data on projects for research that we haven't seen before. And we are very excited about the next program in Latin America, starting on August 2nd, as you already saw. There's also some explorations in Asia and other countries, so stay tuned about spreading VDC in those markets as well. But hopefully this has shown you how VDC, through the sharing of VDC stories, gets spread on projects in the trenches. And then I wanted to offer this slide as a transition to the next speakers in this session that will speak to what they do in those respective regions of the world. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, doctor Martin Fischer, por su gran presentación. Excelente presentación en la cual hace una distinción bastante clara de los esfuerzos aplicados tanto para diseño como para construcción. Y hemos visto también en su presentación cómo los esfuerzos y también la aplicabilidad de cada uno de los componentes de VDC puede variar de proyecto a proyecto, al final depende de esto, ¿no? Pero los fundamentos se mantienen siempre similares. Entonces, muchísimas gracias nuevamente al doctor Fischer, le damos un cordial saludo. Y ahora daremos pase al siguiente ponente de nuestra fecha número 1 del día de hoy, Promoviendo VDC en el mundo. Invitaremos al PhD Alexandre Almeida, el sabio. El ingeniero Almeida también es doctor en Ingeniería Civil por la Universidad Católica de Río de Janeiro, especialista en gestión colaborativa de proyectos, investigador con diversas ponencias y publicaciones de artículos en revistas indexadas internacionalmente. Más de 17 años de trayectoria profesional, 10 años liderando la gestión de ingeniería en megaproyectos de infraestructura en diversos países, ¿no? Secretario del Comité Técnico en Normalización de Edificaciones y Obras de Ingeniería Civil en el Instituto Nacional de la Calidad, INACAL, y pues director de la Carrera de Ingeniería Civil de la Universidad de Lima, como varios lo conocemos. Es un honor poder presentar al ingeniero Almeida, y antes de iniciar con él, repetimos nuevamente que para estas exposiciones se contará con traducción simultánea, por si desean escuchar la ponencia en español, activar la opción intérprete, o de inglés de misma forma, y también les recordamos que todas las preguntas serán resueltas y respondidas al finalizar las 4 presentaciones durante la sección final de mesa de discusión. Ahora sí, le damos un cordial saludo y una bienvenida al ingeniero Alexandre Almeida. Adelante, ingeniero.
Muchas gracias, José Vidal. Thank you very much, Martin Fischer, for your wonderful presentation. So let me share it here. Vidal, ¿podría confirmar si está visible, por favor?
Completamente visible y se le escucha fuerte y claro, ingeniero.
Perfecto, muchas gracias. Muy bien, señores. Entonces, buenas tardes con todos o buenas noches para algunos que están conectados hoy con nosotros aquí. Y hoy presentaré un poco sobre cómo empezamos esta cultura, este amor por la metodología VDC, a partir de la carrera de Ingeniería Civil, como foi esta linha del tempo, depois como passamos para a parte profissional e também como integramos VDC em diferentes projetos que estamos executando desde a Universidade de Lima. Não falarei sobre o marco VDC, não falarei sobre o conceito VDC, porque existem expositores fantásticos que estarão falando ao detalhe sobre este aspecto, então me concentrarei mais em la armação do programa e de lo que hemos logrado hasta el momento. E principalmente que hemos tenido uma excelente apresentação de Martin Fischer, el qual ha hecho uma excelente introdução sobre VDC. Muito bem. Então, esta exposição consiste basicamente na linha como hemos começado desde pré-grado, profissional e projetos, tanto que posto esta pequena forma que demonstra um pouco como foi ocorrendo esta integração através de, poderíamos chamar de 3 engrenagens importantes. Então, quando começamos a carreira de Engenharia Civil em 2016, quando começamos a desenhar, não tínhamos todavia visualizado o tema VDC, mas tínhamos muito claro o tema BIM, que conhecemos muito bem, que é um dos componentes do marco VDC, junto com AIS e PPM. Então, começamos a desenhar uma carreira e lançamos em 2017, e em 2017 também, com nossa preocupação hacia a sociedade, hemos motivado a criação de um comitê técnico para a conformação de toda a norma técnica peruana relacionada a BIM. E chegando ao final do ano de 2017, hemos visto que era necessário integrar esta proposta BIM, como comentou muito bem Martin Fischer, solamente desenvolver o modelo, mas como vamos colaborar, senhores, com os diferentes atores, como vamos definir claramente os objetivos do cliente, do projeto, como trabalharemos na melhora dos processos. Então, claramente observamos que faltava algo mais. E este algo mais era o VDC que conhecemos muito bem. Então, hasta fines de 2017, incorporamos BIM de forma gradual a toda a malha curricular, BIM 3D, 4D, 5D, correspondente a geometria, tempo e custo, e também incorporamos o tema de desenho e construção virtual através de um ano inteiro que os alunos podem optar por assistir essa assinatura eletiva, además de diplomas em BIM 6D, desempenho, operação e mantenimento. Muito bem, e sempre tendo esta preocupação de que uma carreira de engenharia civil ou uma formação acadêmica não se desenvolve solamente em um mundo cerrado da própria universidade. Temos que abrir. O que significa abrir? Necessitamos colaborar com a indústria e colaborar com o setor público. Começamos nossas colaborações em 2018, conformando uma aliança BIM para a construção com a Câmara, com CAPECO, do Peru. Também participamos desde o início do desenvolvimento dos lineamentos BIM para o Ministério de Vivenda, Construção e Saneamento. E, a fins de dezembro, como resultado da gestão do subcomitê que temos, hemos desenvolvido as primeiras 2 normas técnicas peruanas BIM. E isto coincidiu justamente com o lançamento do Plan BIM do Ministério de Economia e Finanças em 2018. Avançando um pouquinho mais, agora passando para 2019, então, hecho todo um desenho com Stanford e com os mentores também, hemos lançado o primeiro programa VDC da Universidade de Lima, a partir da Universidade de Lima, sabemos que existiam 2 edições prévias, e lançamos em 2019 com 26 alunos. Em maio do mesmo ano, hemos tenido a grata resposta, como resultado de todo o esforço que estamos fazendo através do subcomitê BIM, onde reconheceram nosso subcomitê como comitê espejo de la ISO TC 59 subcomitê 3, é o subcomitê encargado de todo o desenvolvimento da normativa técnica BIM em el mundo. Em julho, então, e falando dos outros 2 ministérios que estão atuando bastante no tema BIM, o Ministério de Vivenda, Construção e Saneamento lançou para consulta pública lineamentos para o uso do BIM em projetos de construção, e em julho também, coincidentemente, temos o lançamento do Plano Nacional de Competitividade e Produtividade do Ministério de Economia e Finanças. Avançando um pouco mais, também do Ministério de Economia e Finanças, Em setembro saiu a incorporação progressiva de BIM no setor público. E em outubro, senhores, hemos tenido a oportunidade de assistir à plenária anual em Oslo. Foi super interessante porque aproveitei este momento também para visitar nossos amigos que estão promovendo VDC allá em Noruega e onde conheci personalmente Eilif, que será um dos expositores de hoje. Então, e terminamos este ano com 2 normas técnicas peruanas añadidas ao conjunto de normas que temos em la plataforma del INACAL. Então, é um momento que passou hasta ahorita, hasta 2019. Logramos sair solamente do mundo da academia e começamos a integrar muito com o setor público e também com o setor privado, principalmente através dos profissionais que começaram a primeira edição do programa VDC. Pero em 2020 hemos dado um salto bastante importante, que foi quando lançamos o segundo programa VDC, já em uma escala muito mais grande, não? Onde passamos de 26 inscritos a 127 inscritos do programa VDC. Isto proporciona uma conexão, uma sinergia muito grande com a indústria. Então, temos tido representantes de ministérios, representantes de diferentes instituições, construtoras, provedores de materiais, todos colaborando bajo a metodologia VDC. Foi fantástico este programa, que começou em março de 2020 e terminou em dezembro de 2020. E o programa, que havia começado no ano passado, terminou em outubro de 2020. E em setembro hemos tenido nosso primeiro Congresso Internacional VDC. Então, motivado por por este calor, por este amor por VDC, temos que fazer um congresso. Conversamos com os mentores, conversamos com Martin Fischer e lançamos o primeiro Congresso Internacional VDC, que foi um êxito total, com 1.000 inscritos. Terminaram os cupos e aproximadamente um promédio de 800 pessoas conectadas ao longo de 4 dias. Muito bem. E avançando para 2021, onde estamos, não? Como hemos mencionado, esta colaboração com Stanford e com SAIF principalmente, graças a Martin Fischer, está crescendo cada vez mais, mas de forma muito intensa. Tanto que hemos tenido a oportunidade de enviar um projeto para um concurso de semilleros do SAIF e hemos logrado ganhar esta oportunidade. Então, haviam vários projetos participando. Eu creio que de alunos fora do SAIF, nós éramos o único projeto. Este projeto tem como investigador principal Martin Fischer, eu e 2 alunos da Carrera de Ingeniería Civil da Universidade de Lima, Álvaro e José Vidal, que ambos estão aqui presentes. Estamos em nossa segunda edição do programa do Congresso Internacional VDC, em maio, não? E em agosto do presente ano, temos nossa terceira edição do programa VDC. Outro fato importante também para mencionar, este ano, um ano fantástico também em termos de resultados, hemos logrado, ao início do ano, em março, publicar 4 normas técnicas peruanas, mais sobre BIM, onde incluímos agora a 19.650 parte 1 e 19.650 parte 2, também à disposição de todos os interessados em la plataforma del INACAL. E temos umas 4 normas mais previstas para até o final do presente ano. Muito bem, então, falei rapidamente sobre pregrado e como avançamos desde a criação da carreira de Engenharia Civil e como da incorporação de BIM e, posteriormente, a incorporação de VDC. Agora, isto não funciona somente na teoria, senhores, temos que aplicar. E VDC, como conhecemos, funciona aplicando. Isso é o que sempre comentamos nos programas VDC, é muito importante ter um projeto para aplicar VDC. Então, esse é o momento onde conectamos todo isto a los projetos em marcha. Então, afortunadamente, temos na Universidade de Lima um grande laboratório, um laboratório de obra. Hemos desenvolvido ao longo de 2016 o plano maestro da Universidade de Lima para 25 anos e começamos a implementar em 2017. Em 2018, começamos com os laboratórios da Carrera de Ingeniería Civil e outras edificações que mencionaré a continuação. E a ideia, basicamente, deste plano maestro é praticamente doblar as áreas construídas que temos na Universidade de Lima. Então, que melhor que ter este laboratório de construção dentro de nossa casa para emplear todo este conhecimento que estamos adquirindo a cada dia que passa. Então, mencionarei um pouco a aplicação, ou seja, onde estamos aplicando o VDC, não? Então, são 4 projetos que me concentrarei: os laboratórios da Carrera de Ingeniería Civil, que começamos em 2017, Centro de Inovação e Qualidade Educativa, 2020, Centro de Bem-Estar Universitário, Centro de Tecnologia e Centro de Inovação Tecnológica, que é a nova edificação que estamos começando este ano. Então, todas têm a aplicação de VDC. E a última, además de VDC, temos o tema de IPD e contratos colaborativos também, que é a novidade para essa nova edificação que estamos começando. E a obra de los laboratórios, estamos integrando o tema de Integrated Facility Management, que falarei também a continuação. Muito bem, então, dentro dos aspectos de los laboratórios da carreira de Engenharia Civil, hemos empleado a metodologia VDC para fazer a gestão de todos os equipos que teríamos que comprar e instalar dentro de los novos laboratórios que serão construídos este ano. Laboratório de estruturas, pavimentos, engenharia ambiental, engenharia sanitária, eletromecânica, hidráulica e hidrologia. E, paralelamente, como mencionei na diapositiva anterior, temos o tema da Integrated Facility Management System, que terá como investigador principal o professor Martin Fischer e eu, e 2 alunos de la Carrera de Ingeniería Civil, Álvaro Bassan e José Vidal, os quais estarão desenvolvendo suas teses também relacionadas a este projeto, que foi um dos projetos ganadores del semillero del site. Consiste, então, de coordenar Facility Management com COBE e também usando a metodologia VDC. É um projeto fantástico e estamos super motivados para desenvolver e levar adelante este projeto de Facility Management também. E outro aspecto importante também, como mencionei, este VDC está integrado dentro da malha curricular. Através de um ano, temos um ano de VDC, através de 2 cursos, VDC 1 e VDC 2. E eu sou o professor de ambos cursos. E o que estou fazendo, senhores, para poder capacitar nossos alunos adequadamente? He tomado uma parte do laboratório, que é esse laboratório de estruturas, e disse, muito bem, chicos, o que vamos fazer agora? Vamos aplicar VDC nesse laboratório. E que he dividido este laboratório em componentes. Vamos começar a construção, quizás aproximadamente em 2 meses. Então, cada grupo se quedou a cargo de um componente, onde deverão aplicar VDC. Um grupo se encargará da demolição e escavação, outro da cimentação, outro da louça de reação, outro do pórtico de reação, oficinas e depósitos, muro de reação. E, además, temos um grupo de praticantes, que é Amy e Leopoldo, que se encargarão da gestão do entorno colaborativo, que significa que cada componente que temos dentro desse laboratório representaria, por exemplo, uma especialidade, um projeto em escala real. Então, você terá que coordenar todos esses atores para poder construir e instalar os equipos este ano. Esse é um projeto real, onde desenvolvemos um marco global para o projeto e, a partir deste marco global, derivamos marcos específicos para cada um dos integrantes que temos. Outras aplicações VDC foi na construção do Centro de Inovação e Qualidade Educativa, do arquiteto Diego, para sua certificação VDC 2020, e o Centro de Bem-Estar Universitário. Hemos tenido vários projetos, um de nossa arquiteta Claudine Flores, a gestão do projeto por parte da Universidade de Lima, também para obter sua certificação em 2020, e por parte da construtora encargada do projeto. Então, hemos tenido projetos de gestão do projeto, otimização da estrutura metálica e gestão do concreto também. Además de esto, nosso aluno, José Vidal, também aplicou VDC para a otimização do fluxo veicular, e a engenheira Ana aplicou VDC em tema do drone, usando drones e câmeras para fazer o as-built de toda a Universidade de Lima também, que foi resultado de sua certificação VDC também. Outro projeto que começamos no ano passado, também relacionado ao Centro de Bem-Estar, é usando la inteligencia artificial aplicada a la supervisión y control de obras, también bajo el enfoque de la implementación de la metodología VDC. Este proyecto consiste en identificar diferentes objetos como personas, camiones, grúas, y poder entonces monitorear su productividad, su ubicación, entre otros aspectos. Entonces empezamos a aplicar esta inteligencia artificial en este proyecto. En la primera etapa hemos concluido esta identificación con una confiabilidad que indico a continuación, y ahora estamos usando esta misma tecnología en el próximo proyecto que estamos empezando este año, que es el Centro de Innovación Tecnológico. Ese centro de innovación, además de aplicar VDC, também estaremos aplicando IPD e contratos colaborativos. Então, o contrato que teremos com a empresa COSAP, que é a empresa contratada para a execução desta obra, que está a cargo do engenheiro Omar Alfaro, um dos mentores VDC. Então, são vários projetos que estaremos implementando em VDC. E também, em este projeto, aplicaremos o tema da inteligência artificial, pero además de la identificação de los objetos que temos em este mundo, que temos que fazer limpiar esta imagen. ¿Y por qué limpiar esta imagen? Porque lo que buscamos, señores, es poder comparar a través de imágenes, estamos como gravando la obra, poder calcular el avanço de determinadas partidas en tiempo real a partir de lo que miramos en nuestras cámaras y entrenando los algoritmos de inteligencia artificial. Es un proyecto bastante interesante. Ya estamos en la segunda etapa de implementação desta inteligência para monitoreio e supervisão e controle de obras. Muito bem. Además de esto, al igual de los laboratorios, señores, también tenemos el tema de VDC 1 y VDC 2, que es nuevamente la asignatura donde enseñamos a nuestros alumnos a practicar VDC, y siempre teniendo en VDC 2 la aplicación. En este caso, tengo dos grupos, un grupo de alumnos que estará a cargo de la prefabricación, entonces cómo implementar VDC para obtener elementos prefabricados para dicha construcción, y otro grupo se encargará de las instalaciones de dicho proyecto también. Muy bien, ya para ir entonces concluyendo y hablar un poco de los resultados, intenté ser bastante sucinto. Entonces, señores, esta diapositiva es el resultado de 4 años de mucho amor y dedicación por el tema VDC. Este es un tema que no tiene el día que yo pase que no piense cómo podría ser mejor todo esto que estamos proponiendo desde la Universidad de Lima. Entonces, en 4 años aproximadamente, desde cuando ingresé a la Universidad de Lima, são mais de 800 alunos, começamos de zero, 800 alunos de la Carrera de Ingeniería Civil, mais de 50 alunos no programa interno de VDC 1 e VDC 2, também de nossa Carrera de Ingeniería Civil. Hemos tenido a felicidade do ano passado de apoiar Stanford no treinamento de 12 mentores para o programa passado. Este programa temos novos mentores, e hasta o momento temos 150 profissionais que passaram por el programa VDC. É um porcentaje que corresponde nos programas de larga escala de Stanford a aproximadamente 38% de todo o que se generou em capacitação em programa em el mundo. Então, é um tema bastante interessante, e mais de 1.100 pessoas assistiram a los eventos, já tendo em consideração este evento que temos hoje. E são mais de 20 projetos, senhores, de implementação VDC solamente em la Universidade de Lima. Não hablo de los outros mais de 100 projetos que temos de los alunos que assistiram às 12 edições passadas. Então, é um montão de projetos mineiros, projetos de seguridade, projetos de construção de vivendas familiares, vivenda de pré-edificações comerciais, entre outros, uma infinidade de projetos mineiros também, uma infinidade de projetos bastante interessantes que, como comentou Martin Fischer, está generando uma fonte de informação para estudar todo isto bastante interessante. E, ao longo deste tempo, hemos tenido involucrado em nossos programas mais de 10 países distintos, não? Sempre representantes de Brasil, de Colômbia, de México, Chile e uma série de outros países também que estão participando e apoiando em los diferentes projetos que temos em relação a VDC. Ya para ir concluindo, entonces me gustaría de invitarlos novamente a los que todavía no han tenido la oportunidad de asistir a la tercera edición del programa VDC. Es el único programa latinoamericano en coordinación con Stanford. Hemos organizado la edición de 2019, la 2020. Afortunadamente estamos logrando desarrollar una edición a cada año y con certeza este año vamos superar los 100 asistentes. Hasta ahorita ya tenemos más de 80 que se inscreveram en el programa y todavía faltan un par de meses para el inicio del programa que empieza en agosto y ustedes están todos invitados. Também me gostaria de compartilhar, senhores, uma outra iniciativa, porque como eu ensino VDC, e os alunos sempre perguntavam sobre definições, entre outras. Então, he generado uma plataforma que se chama VDC Dictionary, que é um dicionário em linha para definições, sinônimos e origens de palavras para desenho e construção virtual. Tem 3 idiomas, português, espanhol e inglês, é aberta, não tem custo nenhum, toda a informação é acessível e é uma informação validada. O que significa informação validada? Que as definições vêm de estudos que foram desenvolvidos mundialmente, são, por exemplo, artigos principalmente desenvolvidos por Martin Fisher, por Kuntz, por Leonardo Richmoller, entre outros, são as principais fontes de informação para as definições que estamos añadindo. Para este dicionário, temos colaboradores de Brasil, Estefânia Correia, de Chile, Daniel Inácio, e de Peru, José Vidal, Álvaro Bazán e Justo Cabreira. Então, que estão constantemente sempre revisando os términos e proponendo. Recomendo que sigam, principalmente em LinkedIn, onde estamos semanalmente publicando mais e mais términos e definições sobre VDC. E, então, antes de concluir, o mais importante, não, senhores, agradecer a vários colaboradores que permitiram que este programa fosse possível, o programa VDC a nível de Latinoamérica, o programa VDC dentro da Universidade de Lima e outros programas que vendrão, que todavía esta surpresa eu deixarei para mais adelante. ¿No? Pero Roberto Arbolu, he tenido la grata satisfação de ter Roberto como um dos professores de minha edição. He participado da primeira edição da Universidade de Lima. Roberto Arbolu era um dos professores, nos ensinando como maestro como trabalhar com PPM. Leonardo Richmoller é uma pessoa que praticamente conversamos frequentemente, não somente sobre VDC, pero como definir, como construir um programa de engenharia diferenciado. Então, é uma pessoa que lo tenho de maneira muito próxima, muito cerca também. Martin Fisher, não seria que falar sobre Martin Fisher, está constantemente apoiando o programa, estrechando cada vez mais os laços de colaboração com a Universidade de Stanford, permitindo a nós compartilhar nosso conhecimento, invitando para compartilhar, aceitando nossos jovens muito chiquitos em diferentes projetos de Stanford, a trabalhar com gigantes que estão fazendo sua maestria, seu doutorado, e nós enviando nossos chiquitos, nossos pequenos jovens para compartilhar conhecimento sobre a implementação VDC. E todo isto também, además de estes 3 senhores que estão aqui, quizás eu sou um pouco senhor também, agradecer aos mentores, Omar Alfaro, principalmente, que ha estado desde a primeira edição que desenhamos na Universidade de Lima, sempre constantemente apoiando e muito motivado a desenvolver todas as iniciativas que temos a respeito do programa, e os outros 11 mentores que receberam a certificação no ano passado: Raul, Carlos Delgado, Carlos Jurado, Jorge Miranda, Justo Cabreira, José Antônio, Sérgio, Gerardo, José, Felipe Quiroz e Dani Murguia, são os mentores da edição passada. E agora, senhores, estamos preparando novos mentores, porque este programa, o programa VDC consiste não somente em capacitar a indústria ou capacitar profissionais, mas estar constantemente formando novos mentores. Os mentores candidatos que temos para este ano são Jéssica de la Cruz, Walter Meléndez, Christian Canha, Erika Valle, Estefânia Correia, de Brasil, Raquel Guerra e Erles Waman. Então, esses são os candidatos que temos para este ano, e o bonito do programa é que sempre estaremos capacitando também mentores para poder compartilhar cada vez mais o conhecimento VDC em todas as partes da América Latina e do mundo também. Entonces, muchas gracias nuevamente por escucharme y estaré atento a las consultas al final de las exposiciones. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, ingeniero Almeida, por su excelente presentación. Gracias también por comentar toda la trayectoria de la carrera con respecto a VDC y cómo no solo se ha aplicado VDC a nivel académico, sino también en las mismas obras de la propia universidad, ¿no? Viendo tanto su aplicabilidad en distintos tipos de proyectos y pues cómo esto se ha también expandido, ¿no? A nivel nacional, internacional, con el programa internacional VDC, con el apoyo de la Universidad de Stanford. Y también gracias por todo su apoyo que ha brindado, como siempre, como director, y pues también por todo lo que ha hecho también por el país, en la industria de la construcción. Bueno, ahora para la siguiente parte, recordarles también que todas las preguntas que hagan las pueden dejar en la caja de preguntas, ubicada aquí en la pestaña inferior, las cuales serán respondidas al finalizar las 4 presentaciones. Asimismo, les comentamos que contamos con un intérprete de idiomas. Si quieren escuchar todo en español, escojan la opción español, y si quieren escuchar todo en inglés, de igual forma. Ahora daremos pase para la siguiente ponencia, en la cual será a cargo del doctor Eilif Helseth. El doctor Eilif Helseth es PhD en Fundamentos para Sistemas de Control basados en modelos BIM por la Norwegian University of Life Science. Actualmente también se desempeña como profesor en el Centro de Investigación Noruego de Informática y Derecho de la Universidad de Oslo, Noruega. Asimismo, realiza mentoría a estudiantes para sus doctorados. También es, pues, por supuesto, jefe del programa de certificación VDC de Noruega. Ahora le damos pase al doctor Eilif Helseth para su presentación. Adelante.
Buenas noches. Sorry that I'm not that good in Spanish, so I take it in English. First of all, thank you very much for this invitation. And also Martin Fisher for your introduction to why VDC is working, and also Alexandra for your presentation, use of standards, and also a nice picture from your trip to Oslo in Norway. My topic is promoting VDC in the world, and we'll see why should we have a topic on that, because you see from the evidence from projects that it should be enough. But I want you to take you on a trip where we see the mindset for scaling up. And it's not that we have this, it's also based on the way we are doing it. So promoting, yes, we started up in Norway with a large project. I see there is going on in Switzerland, Peru. So you also know that Sweden is starting up, and I guess also you have courses in USA. And the thing is, and also what Martin Fisher said, is this collaboration with industry and academia. That's very interesting for enabling this promoting VDC in the world. And also from my point of view, working with digitalization, as a VDC has close connection to digitalization or opposite. And in a way that saying that you cannot make BIM or digitalization work unless you have a very, very good process. And VDC is giving a very, very good process. So that is the approach to my presentation, also thinking about how to do it. I put up some topics there. So I start with understanding of the potential of the construction industry, or architect, engineering, construction, and facility management. I also take you to a trip in Norway, but it's not only about Norway because we have the whole world as a scope. And then I have some final presentation where I go into research project and also want to welcome you to Norway, and also some thoughts about further collaboration. For I have the last slide about the impact. I guess you get the presentation and you also get this recorded. So I do not read all the text. I take the main topics. First of all, I guess you have seen these presentations before, showing that, oh, the construction industry is so bad, although there is that good. And in a way, we start believing it, that nothing can improve our construction industry and is miserable. However, when you look at those figures, I do think that there's missed one important aspect. And that is, if you see the improvement, the capability to improve, you see that the construction industry is, from my point of view, the world's most dynamic industry. And if you get better processes to do it, because we have to have better processes to face the challenges we see related to sustainability and also to complex complexity and size of project, as Alexander presented, and also use and utilization of digital technology. So there I do think that we see that VDC and the focus on the process and utilization of digital tools is very significant. So I do think that we have enormous potential, and it's important that we can show that the construction industry can be a part of the solution, especially related to sustainability. There's also the challenge about running out something, implementation of something. And when you go back to John Cotteran about 8 steps of change, they start very softly by you have to do some steps about awareness on those steps, but you don't get the proof. And when you work in the construction industry, you know that we are really practical. We want to see the evidence. We want to see the proof. And if you should start a process in the construction industry with this strategy, I do not think you will come to see step 3 again before it stopped. There, I do think that the approach that we offer in VDC, that you are doing it in practice, create short-term wins, and that's what we are doing in our competency programs. Then you will see having a 1-year course, you're doing it again, you experience ups and downs, and also will see you continue to do it and you get results. And I do think that the secret is that we are able to start on step 6 and getting results. And also foresee explaining VDC and all those boxes and figures and words. I like this quote from Alice in Wonderland. Also, the best way to explain it is to do it. And I do think that is the approach that we have in our VDC competency program. And I haven't seen other programs that has this this profile. Too many start with theory, principles, and all that stuff. It's nice if you have an academic job, but if you are in the industry, you want to do something in practice. And I do think that that is the thing. And when you get the experience to build the right the first time and continue it. So I do think that is one of the elements that is very important to be aware of, that you have to live in this world when you have success on it. And there we have it. And also foresee the reason why we should foresee scale up and do something about it. And now I'm going back to foresee how we started up in Norway. And Martin Fischer can say a lot about what he have done, but he have been frequently in Norway, offered very good courses, and normally in the batch of 20 students. And of course, one benefit of coming here was that the student can go to trip to Stanford. And also NTNU developed courses in the traditional way, about 20 students. But that doesn't make a shift. That does not make to take the world. And then we thought about what can we do. And if you are going to take a big leap, you cannot foresee run this small river in 2 steps. You have to foresee take part. And that is what we scaled up. Even if we could continue in the old way, we saw that we had more to earn on collaboration. And the long time connection with Professor Martin Fisher and knew his vision and sold up in it. Then we said, yes, we have to do something to scale up. We cannot continue with having these courses with 20 students. And then, of course, we could scale up, we could try, but that's not a Norwegian attitude. So you maybe know that we have a Viking tradition as well. So we started up, being agreed that we get the university to sign some agreement, but that's enough. Two old guys doesn't make a change. But when you can get mentors as a people with VDC certification and experience guiding other students, because each of those mentors was guiding or mentoring 20 other students. And then we have the scaling up, learning up. We also had the same thing about, because we have run 2 courses, and I maybe not said it, but when we talk about large scale courses, there is 200 students from all over the industry. And you see also that we get people from the industry here to join up. We also have, for this scaling up, with having a support team, and you also will have a presentation of Gunnar later in this program. I take it swiftly. And also for the having an inclusive approach. So we did not start for say, yes, we should have a VDC competency program for say the construction industry or for civil engineering or for this. No, we said that it's important that we come together, all branches, all parts of the industry working together, learning from each other and not looking at what is the difference. And the experience was that we can learn a lot from each other. So that also is an aspect of scaling up and promoting VDC to the world. And by this, we also foresee has been able to cover the entire industry. Regarding the statistics I have on the right side, I do think that it's important to see that we have a strategic approach to get more clients. And one reason is because they have the money and they have the power to order VDC in the next project. So we are very pleased to have this strategic approach. We maybe see that we can have some improvement getting the architects more on board, but we have a very good participation from construction consulting engineers, contractors, and also others, and those are mostly software developers. And I do think that is also an important aspect, that when we talk about digitalization, that's a dynamic way. We have to have the software developers on board so they see the processes and can develop software tools that is supporting our way of working, not the other way that is too typical. So this was for this short introduction to how we scaled up, come together and collaborated to make it bigger. And of course, we also see that it's not only about the VDC certification for the 200 students, it's also a management training, as I said, with the mentors. And I do think that is very important to see that everyone is participating in it, is gaining competency. And of course, having this type of education where you also have this executive mentor certificate, we have the VDC certification where they get implementation experiences. And I have so far not mentioned courses very often. And that's because the course is just a package of what we are delivering. It is the competency, the way of working and learning that is the key element for it. And I do think that this practical approach based on very, very solid and principles is a key to change the world to produce in a better way. And of course, there we also have focus on continuous learning, and that is an important aspect. And also we have something we call deep dive. That also is an example where we also offer training for people that had taken the course previously. So in a way, you can start the VDC program, but we have no plans for how we are ending it. It's a continuous development. But this approach, I do think, is important to be aware of when we are doing it. Collaborating and continuous development. So that is the attitude for going for it. However, now I can tell you that this was a success because we had the first course, but when we started it, and also foresee the attitude we have on Saturday, the 7th of August. So when we had this huge conference, all at the hotel, completely empty, and we started to build up the rooms and said, what are we doing? However, on Monday the 19th, we saw that this is awesome. So getting 200 professionals, we call them students because we are in a learning situation, together with a joint focus, working together in teams and networking. So I do think that is giving a power of community that we'll see very few other programs can do. So I do think that is also important to be aware of, that scaling up and not be afraid of that. We have also foresee got some experience by doing it online, and from a professional content point of view, I can say that is working. Also working quite well in a way, because it's very easy to switch into different breakout rooms. However, you don't get the community feeling. But I do think that a mixed approach can be a way to do it. Take the best of it so it can scale up. Then I also coming into some of the evidence for it, because there is also some theories and principles about community of practice. And to explain the results that we get from our competency program, I cannot explain it, or Martin and I wrote a paper together and saying that these good results cannot be only based that we have foresee total of 8 days of lectures and 7 project reports. It has also to be that the 200 practitioners from the industry is working together, learning from each other, and also getting the confidence to really do change in practice. And that means that when you are 200, there will always be someone that is very good, someone with good examples, and someone to learn from. So I do think that scaling up should not be a topic. We also see that doing it for the industry has been, of course, important, but we also see that we have to bring this knowledge to our students at NTNU, and there we have very, very good collaboration with industry, and also that Roar Fosse and Christian Bakkejord from Skanska and Statsbygg has done a very good job. And then we also see that we get people in the industry, so now is demanding and used to work in a new way for it. So that was foresee something about it. Summary of the experiences is based on collaboration. We are stronger together, and also foresee scale, also large scale has been a success criteria in itself. And I can also tell you to have a good start, but also foresee still hard work. So it's not foresee that now we know the way to do it. We have to continuously improve our way of delivering competency. But I do think that is a learning point that we can take with us. Further development is, of course, we also see that we can take this to to a higher level, to include it in a master degree, get it more to students, and also scale up a new type of competency packages and modules. And we need to focus on the alumni network and support. And I do think that when I'm saying that, that is also in an international piece. I'm also a professor, so focus on research is high, but then I struggle with time, but I do think that we can do much on that aspect. And that's why I'm telling you about a couple of 3 small research projects that we have started up at NTNU, and one is to look into change on individual and project level, where and a colleague have developed a framework called Change Capability Framework, where we see in advance what is the capability to do change both in individual and at project level. And that also means that we are focused on metrics, that we can benchmark your score or your compared to others, and getting a map of it. If you are interested, you can take contact with me and we can explore this further. We want to get more evidence and more experience on that. But I do think that that is an aspect we see of it. We see also that we have to improve the digital communication, and together with the industry and the software industry in Norway, we have made a proposal to develop some templates and some reference architecture framework, so we can be implemented in multiple software to make all those messages more automatic and more consistent. And also maybe put it in Martin Fisher's way, also reduce the variability in information, not only in production, but the variability in information exchange. And of course, as Alexander very well presented, also the VDC dictionary, to have this common language and understanding, this also is a topic that we have focused on, and I do think that seeing the good work that you have done there, I hope that we can collaborate further. And also if you see from the table that I have put up here, they're also prepared for Spanish, but so far it's open lines, but I hope those can be closed. And there also we have a collaboration with Standards Norway and the subcommittee for BIM standardization as well with Project Norway. And also to develop our dictionary in a way that it is machine readable and can be integrated with other ontologies. But that also possibilities. I'm now going into my last slides. As you saw from Alexander, who has been in Oslo, I invite you to Norway and Trondheim, where we in September 2022 will be the host of ECPPM, also the European Conference on Product and Process Modeling. And that's the old term for BIM. But we also want to have a special track on VDC and digital processes. So I look forward to see a lot of you coming through our nice city of Trondheim, where you see the university and you also see some of the nice city. And now I'm going into the slide. When I have this opportunity to present our thoughts and our way of scaling up, I do think that collaboration is very, very important, and to be aware of what we are doing, coming together, discussing. And I see now that we have to do more on collaboration, exchange thoughts, going in for how to scale up, and also be aware that you never work alone. And I do think that's typical in all aspects, and to get these continuous improvements. Then I have a summary slide on what we are doing with the impacts of VDC. And that is based on, we'll see, a value chain mindset, where we go from this individual way of learning and to a more incorporated way together. And then I have this scale from ICS. We have the course, that's one on start. Then you get some competency, and you can get a competency on a certain level that you can get certified. Then you build confidence. So if you believe on your thing, you have done it in practice. But it's also important that we build up capacity, that the industry itself can have skilled and experienced professionals to do it, and they are working together to make a change. And of course, to end up with cash, that's also an important element, but it should also be foresee, understand as the triple bottom line and promoting or supporting sustainability. But that's my thoughts, or that our thoughts and strategy for going into this VDC program to make this change, to have this development. So it's not only about having courses and the courses was good, it's to really change, to really be a difference. So gracias por la atención. That was my last slide. I see that I have used my 25 minutes of fame. And here you have my contact information. And I'm very pleased to collaborate further with all of you in Peru and at the University of Lima. So thank you for your attention.
Muchísimas gracias, doctor Elif Helsets, también por la puntualidad, por acabar en los 25 minutos. Y también muchísimas gracias por la excelente presentación, empezando por la trayectoria que ha tenido la metodología VDC en Noruega, uno de los países pioneros en esta metodología, y cómo es que se ha ido desarrollando a través justamente de la integración y la colaboración con las diversas empresas del país, ¿no? Al final, como comentaba el doctor Elif Helsets, crece muchísimo VDC a través de la integración y tener una confianza, una de las palabras clave que también mencionaba el doctor Fischer, en las distintas partes para poder alcanzar un mejor resultado, ¿no? Finalmente, esto lo podemos aplicar bastante también a cualquier aspecto profesional, ¿no? Dejar de lado las diferencias de intereses para poder alcanzar un objetivo en común, pues casi siempre va a ser beneficioso para todas las partes, ¿no? Entonces, muchísimas gracias nuevamente. Le damos un último saludo al doctor Elif Helsets por su excelente presentación. Y ahora, antes de pasar a la última presentación del día de hoy, nuestra fecha número 1 del Congreso Internacional VDC, Promoviendo VDC en el mundo, pues lo comentaré una última vez. Discúlpenme la insistencia, la última vez lo prometo. Pueden dejar todas sus preguntas en la caja de preguntas ubicada en la pestaña inferior, y también contamos con una interpretación en español o inglés por si quieren escuchar en algún idioma en específico este segunda edición del Congreso Internacional VDC. Ahora daremos pase a la última presentación del día. Invitamos al magíster Peter Scherer, cual tiene un máster en Virtual Design and Construction por la Universidad de Ciencias Aplicadas del Noroeste de Suiza. Lleva 20 años trabajando en la industria de la ingeniería, arquitectura y construcción, y actualmente se dedica a reforzar la transformación cultural y digital para el entorno constructivo como experto VDC en la misma Universidad del Noroeste de Suiza. Asimismo, es el responsable de la educación profesional de VDC en la misma casa de estudios. Sin más que decir, le damos pase y la bienvenida al magíster Peter Scherer. Adelante.
So, good morning or good evening at your end of the world. Thank you very much for your invitation, and I'm very pleased to give you an overview what's going on VDC-wise in Switzerland. I followed the explanation from Elif, which I know since a few years. We met a couple of times in Oslo, and of course we met also in SciFi when they started training for their first VDC large-scale program. So before I start, I would really like to congratulate you what you have achieved in Latin America with this event. It's quite impressive to see how VDC is getting improved in your part of the world, and I would really like to do the same, or to see the same development here in Europe, and especially in Switzerland, of course, to build a network, working closer together, as Elif also mentioned it, and to build this trust and confidence, which is quite also very important in my eyes. It was also a pleasure to meet a few of the mentors back in 2019, where they started their VDC journey, or most of them did. And it was really impressive to see how our common goal and our common interests in developing the construction industry further is not limited to the border of Switzerland. You have always this feeling like, yeah, it's more our common topic to develop this really important thing forward. But sometimes, as Elif said, you think you work alone, but you don't. And that's quite impressive. In the next couple of minutes, I know it's the last presentation, but I hope this will keep you up to show you a few examples about VDC work in Switzerland. So what we did so far since 2013, where we started the VDC journey here. Of course, with less participants that you saw in Norway. We started about 10, and now we are up to maybe 30 in the master program, which I will show you later, but also we have around 60 participants in what we call the large-scale program here. It's not the same amount as you heard from Norway, but I think it's more like the Swiss way, and we hope to get improved, of course, the number of participants soon. And also, I would like to give you a better impression how Switzerland is working and dealing with VDC. I'm sure there are a lot of common approaches, but there are also some differences which I would like to highlight to you. So yeah, where are we? Of course, Switzerland is located in the heart of Europe. As you can see where the nail is, Switzerland is located here. And if we look a little bit closer, you can see that yeah, our country is maybe 30 times smaller than Peru. So now you have an idea how small Switzerland could be. And of course, population around 8 million people. And one of the major challenges is that we have 3 different languages. If you look a little bit closer, there are 4, but mention the 3 main speaking languages in Switzerland, which divides the country into 3 different parts language-wise. So the most of the people are speaking German, which is Swiss German, which is very close to High German, located to the upper north part of Switzerland, to Germany. Then on the left side, or more on the western part, there are the French-speaking part connected to France. And of course, in the southern part, there is Italian. There are Italian-speaking people closer to Italy. This is quite important to know, because if you want to have a large-scale effect in Switzerland, you have to enable people in 3 different languages at least. And now, as you know, we have also this connection with Stanford and the rest of the world. They are speaking English, of course. And now you have to connect these 4 languages. You have English vocabulary, and you have, of course, the German-speaking part and the French-speaking part. And if you want to bring things further in Switzerland, you have to cover all the languages. Another major difference would be we have here a direct democracy, which means that everybody is mostly independent, but of course we are all together in a large system, and we have 26 independent cantons. That means the country is divided by 26 almost autonomous little states. They are acting mostly independent. And there is a principle of subsidiarity. That means every canton is independent in decision. That means VDC-wise, if one canton would decide to apply VDC, another one doesn't have to. Of course, the government will always give some recommendation what is or what should be done in the construction industry, but the autonomy of the different cantons is quite high. As you can see, also like in the rest of the world, the GDP is, of the construction industry is about 10% of the national GDP. What is Switzerland famous, or what you maybe know about Switzerland is, of course, we produce in the left or in the western part a lot of cheese and chocolate. And then, of course, here in the lowlands, where also the main industry is located, close to Zurich, Bern, and also here Geneva, which you might know from international congresses. Here is more the focus on the financial industry. And of course, watches is a big export industry for Switzerland. In the southern part, they're focusing more on wine production, and there are also 40%, almost 40% covered with mountains. So, if you would like to come to Switzerland, you would see there are many valleys and mountains to see, and also narrow places, which is not so an open country as maybe others are. For myself, I work here in Muttenz, that's close to Basel in the southwestern part of Switzerland. And as you can see here, if you click on the link, or if you would like to go to the link, you can see that the whole Switzerland is built in 3D. So every building, you can fly through Switzerland if you want to enjoy that. And every building is built in 3D, so you can apply it to any software you want and to improve your project this way. As always mentioned in every presentation, and Elif said it, the productivity in Switzerland, and especially in Europe, is we are facing all the same problem. As you can see, Switzerland is here on the upper third in Europe, but we have not seen so much increasing productivity in the past 20 years. So how can we bring productivity up, and not only in Switzerland? Of course, we are connected to Europe, import and export wise. So we are we should work together and bring the construction industry forward. And if you can see here, a few countries are better than others, but more or less we have all the same problem. I would like to highlight one of the topics which I see in Switzerland, but I think this is also a topic in other nations. I do not really know, but it has to be. The demographic development in Switzerland leads us in the next 10 years to a really, in my eyes, important topic. That means we have to do the same amount of work with less people. You can see here in this gap, there are less people or less workforce available to do the same or even more work with less workforce. That means we have to improve our work and how we work together using digital technologies to scale or to have more impact with the same or less workforce. For that, I think it's quite important to understand that digitalization or using VDC is not something that you should do. It's something that you have to do in the future if you want to work in a construction industry that is quite doing good quality work for clients. So, and you have to understand it as a client that you have demand for more or for better solution for working together. And this is quite a thing that's going on in Switzerland, that people have to realize it's not good enough what we are doing right now. We've seen tremendous challenges for the climate change, for our economy system in Europe, but also around the world. So if we look a little bit closer, what is a typical high performance building? Of course, I meant the mountains. This is a cable car station in 4,000 meters above sea level. You can imagine that wind and snow will let the temperatures go down under 30 or under 30 degrees minus. And also in winter, we have here minus 10 degrees for the construction site. And if you want to place concrete here, you have to heat it up to 100 degrees. So the concrete is crossable in that way. So one picture more, that's the way how they do form work, or at least they prepare it, and they should have, they do concrete in place like this if it comes to the form work. So that's one, maybe not typical. Often they are building new cable car stations up in the mountains, but one of the main challenges in Switzerland is to provide data center for the Swiss banks to get enough capacity for the storage and also for computers. This is quite a growing business in Switzerland, as we saw in the past years. As our country is neutral and politically stable, we have seen in the map, Switzerland is located in the heart of Europe. So this is quite an important part of the construction industry to build these data centers. So that was also one of my personal experience in the past 20 years when I was practicing VDC without knowing it to have it. Of course, not in the full framework, but some parts have been quite important to me to have it also in my professional work. So I was a construction manager building these data centers to ensure that all the traders from the Swiss banks are able to do their work, and not only the human traders, also the machine traders. As you can see here, they have a lot of screens doing decisions while they were trading. So that means we have to build a sustainable and also a fail-safe system for energy support and supply. And that means you have to provide a lot of information to make the right decisions if there is a failure or systems have to be restarted again. They have to be secure, and for that you have to involve, of course, a lot of participants to ensure that systems are designed the right way and are supporting in a way that the client can do their work as best as possible. And as you can see on the left side, information management is also very important there, because you have to cover all the needs from different stakeholders to keep the systems up and running. And also coordination-wide on the PPM side, you have to bring all the different projects together. So that means changes in the cooling system, in the electrician system, and also in the building automation system has to be coordinated well in date and quality. Another typical, or maybe this is another typical usage of VDC in Switzerland, would be public infrastructure for the future. So that means the challenges in Switzerland is to provide for the future a quite stable and also very secure transport system for goods and also for people. As you can see here, and you know from my previous information, that Switzerland has a lot of mountains. Some of them are steep, some are not. And as you can see here, to optimize this transport line here from the public railway, they have plans to build a tunnel, which is more in the direct line of the traffic, and that allows to be faster and take not so much curves as we have here. So for this reason, they build a tunnel, and tunneling projects are quite important to build them fast and also under reliable conditions. So that means, of course, the client has to be happy. So that means you have to provide this tunnel in time to open it on time when the next schedule change is there. And for that, you have to provide really accurate information to do so. For that, of course, they use sometimes models. It's not so common to have always models, digital models, but sometimes they do. And to have, of course, accurate processes to collaborate, to engage the different stakeholders, and to bring them together to work properly on the same topic. And then if the tunnel is finished, it looks quite impressive to stay in the tunnel. Here you have a tunnel inspection for the handover. There are no trains there right now, but they are looking for all the good conditions and see if everything is safe. So another typical application, VDC application, is for buildings. So that means a lot of areas in Switzerland are now built in a sustainable environment. That means working people and living people in houses are built in small areas, more in parks, together to ensure that they can work sustainable. And for that, they build different types of building close together. Of course, they have to be good design. They're using digital technologies like BIM, but mostly in the design phase. So if you look at construction side, there's not so much improvement as I saw so far. Of course, there are a lot of companies who are focusing on digitalization in the construction process, but Switzerland is more like driven from the designers. That means a lot of designers are focusing on BIM right now. They have started to see the added value of VDC by using ICE and PPM, but in most design companies, it's very common to just focusing on BIM, which is quite a good start, but should be improved soon. And that's what we are working on in our programs, to engage more contractors, making them collaborate with the designers and not leave the designers alone by providing a good solution which sounds or looks good for them. It should really be a benefit for the whole project and not only for the designers. But as I will show you later, designers have a very strong community in Switzerland, and contractors are not so good connected to each other. They are more competitors or see each other as competitors. And I think that's one thing that they can improve, to see each other not as competitors and more as enablers to demand their needs to the designers and to improve this way how they work together. So if you look at the average construction site, you can see here the guy from the excavator is signing a paper. The guy on the right side is delivering concrete, and there's a manual process to sign that off. I think there are a lot of improvements if you look at the average construction site here, because if the guy from the excavator loses his copy, the concrete will never get paid, or there will be no bill from one company to the other, and this could happen a lot. And I think they have also a lot of digitalization improvement to do in the future. These are a few numbers from the participants from Switzerland. You can see in our large-scale program, which I mentioned, we have 60 participants, and 50% of them were designers. That means, as I said before, it's very design-driven, and designers have to lead now in Switzerland. There's a strong association called SIA, Swiss Engineers and Architects. They have, from my eyes, the lead about digitalization in construction. And of course, they try to bring things forward, but the processes established in Switzerland are quite strong. So that means design first, then we do a bit tendering, and then construction comes into place. But then it's often too late to optimize the project quite better. We do not see currently a tremendous or more participants from the client side. We do small master programs, as I show you later. But also at least 30% contractors and 15% owners, and also guys from FM are participating. So what are we doing in the professional education in Switzerland? We have this VDC program in place since 2013. We have around 250 VDC alumni since then, and they are really good connected between each other, but it's not so well connected, I would say, to the rest of the industry. So the idea and concepts behind VDC has to be translated, and one of the topics is, of course, to have different languages in Switzerland. That's one of the really major challenges. And we have the possibility to have 25 students per year in the regular master program, which is focusing on professionals. And we had the opportunity this year to have 60 additional in the certification program. So these are two ways to get the master degree for professional education in Switzerland. One is to have it in a regular study way, like you work 60% and do 40% study work, or you have this VDC large-scale program, which we offered last year first. And what we see, and I think Elif also mentioned it, it's quite important to see not VDC as something that you can teach in the classroom. Normally, VDC education or education in Switzerland is looking like this. You go to a class, you get your knowledge, and then you do your exercise, your homework, and then after you did that a few times, you go to practice it. And I think this is not the way how you can teach or how you can educate, enable people in doing VDC, because you have to do it and you have to experience, to gather experience while you are working. And that's what we call flipped classroom, or what is common sense known as flipped classroom. You have to do your self-study, then you have to do some exercises reflecting with other people, and of course then you have to apply it in practice. And this loop can be done better, or you can reflect in the group better when you do something in practice. And of course you can always go back and study what are the theories behind and how can I improve. So that's a big shift in my eyes for the educational system in Switzerland, to move from the classic information transformation or for classic information delivery, knowledge delivery, to a system where people are really motivated to learn and apply. So then another thing that's going on, at least starting this autumn, is we have first this Master in Science in Virtual Design and Construction, with two focuses, one on information management and the other on collaboration, focusing more on the VDC part. The left side, as you know, is more the BIM part, but of course both are working closely together. And it's really important to start this initiative to also give a signal to the industry that there is more improvement in terms of VDC. And we had the large scale program started last September. As you all know, unfortunately, the pandemic came between our plans, and we, of course, had plans to start as they did in Norway, or as you did in Latin America, to start with a week and then to have the different inputs. But we did a full digital delivery or virtual delivery. And we saw also the challenges that people are 1 week together in a virtual environment. And we know the challenges that they have to face, that they have to apply really fast before they start. But that was, I think, if I look back, that was one of the major points to get them ready and then to make them jump into the cold water. So they have to really dive in before they have all the knowledge, and there is a lot of uncertainty, of course, but this is how change works in my eyes. So you have to you have to orientate yourself, what's important, and then you have to start. That's quite important. So that means we started in September here, and we did some inputs every 2 months about different topics. You can see we started with VDC and metrics, so they have the basic principles. And then we continue with ICE, BIM, ICE, PPM, BIM, IPD. and we end here with VDC as a whole to build the whole picture, bring everything together at next Thursday in a week, June 3rd is the last input, and then we are facing the integration experience, which looks quite good now for the pandemic situation, to have it in person on August 13 and 14. So this is how we applied the VDC certification program as a large-scale mode in Switzerland, and I think it was quite good to have it this way. Of course, there are always room for improvement, but to be honest, to keep that open, you have to do the same thing as you expect from your participants. Like VDC is really important to start and then to improve. And as mentioned before, also from Elif, we have also this goal to have a common language. For that, we built this VDC glossary in Switzerland. It's not covering all the languages in Switzerland right now, but at least it gives you the possibility to translate English terms, important English terms from VDC into German. And for now, we have 2 languages, and it would be really great to connect this to also the initiative in Latin America, and of course to Norway. So that was the Swiss way of VDC doing it, and I would really like to invite you, if you are close to Switzerland, or if you would like to visit Switzerland VDC-wise or for vacation, please give me a call. This is how it looks like if you are in Switzerland, at least at one part, and the mountains are quite impressive from my perspective, and it would be really great to have you here sometimes and give you a closer look to the construction industry and also show you our beautiful country. Thank you very much, and hopefully I was in time and give back to José.
Muchísimas gracias, doctor Pieter Scherer, por su excelente presentación y cómo ha detallado y explicado la trayectoria de la metodología VDC a lo largo de cómo se ha desarrollado en Suiza, ¿no? Muy excelente también precisión en cómo, usando los términos correctos y usando el mismo lenguaje de VDC, se ha podido transmitir alrededor de todo el mundo, ¿no? Entonces ha sido, de verdad, una gran presentación que nos ha demostrado justamente cómo VDC está presente en cada uno de estos países. Ahora, concluida esta parte de las ponencias, la primera parte de las cuales se han explicado cada uno de los puntos del eje temático del día de hoy, daremos pase a la sección final de nuestra primera fecha del Congreso Internacional VDC, el cual es la mesa de discusión. Entonces, para dar pase a la mesa de discusión, invitaré a mi compañero Santiago Gutiérrez, que en esta oportunidad nos estará apoyando para realizar las preguntas correspondientes que los asistentes han ido formulando hacia los expositores. Asimismo, antes de dar el pase a Santiago, quisiera recordar también a los ponentes que activen la opción de interpretación en inglés, de modo que puedan escuchar las preguntas, las cuales van a ser leídas en español, en su idioma natal, para no tener que repetirlas en el idioma inglés. Ahora sí, le doy pase a Santiago para que se presente. Adelante, Santiago.
Muchas gracias, José. Muy buenas noches con todos los participantes. Se les saluda Santiago Gutiérrez Díaz, actual coordinador del Círculo de Estudios del área de Relaciones Públicas del Círculo de Estudios VDC de la Universidad de Lima. En esta oportunidad, como lo mencionó mi compañero José, continuaremos con la mesa de discusiones y preguntas y empezaremos con la pregunta dirigida al director de carrera Alexandre Almeida, la cual dice, por su experiencia en el uso de BIM y VDC, ¿cómo recomienda aplicar y cómo se está aplicando el VDC en la gestión de operaciones y mantenimientos en el sistema de agua potable y alcantarillado, ingeniero? Adelante, ingeniero.
Gracias, Santiago, por la pregunta. Muy buena pregunta. La metodología de VDC es muy potente, principalmente para las empresas encargadas de la operación y mantenimiento de cualquier proyecto en general. Recuerden que la operación y mantenimiento representa el mayor componente de la inversión de un proyecto, es decir, el componente de operación y mantenimiento podría representar 60, 70, 80% de toda la inversión que se hará a lo largo de la vida de un proyecto. Por lo tanto, es muy, muy importante empezar desde las etapas tempranas a involucrar el dueño del activo para que empiece a colaborar bajo la metodología VDC. Entonces, es una recomendación bastante importante porque si el proyecto es hecho de manera adecuada y consistente y su construcción también con la presencia del propietario o de la empresa que se encargará de la operación y mantenimiento, esto podrá tener resultados bastante positivos en el momento que se terminan las etapas previas de diseño y construcción y entren las etapas de operación y mantenimiento que podrían tardar 20, 30, 40, 50 años dependiendo del activo. Em relação ao tema específico de dicho projeto, assim como outros, não tem limites não há uma limitação para emplear a metodologia VDC em qualquer etapa do ciclo de vida de determinado projeto. Muchas gracias, Santiago.
Muchísimas gracias, ingeniero Almeida, por su respuesta. No sé si alguno de los otros ponentes quisiera añadir algo más o pasaríamos para la siguiente pregunta. Bueno, me parece que pasaríamos para la siguiente pregunta. Por favor, doctor Marty Fischer, adelante.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I would say for facility management, like for management of design and construction phase, or for the integration of facility management into design, which we have seen actually also quite often. For a successful application of VDC, in my experience, it requires a reflective facility management practitioner, one that can see a little bit beyond the boundaries of today's work and recognize the importance of connecting with other phases, of reflecting on the facility management processes, reflecting on the quality of information, reflecting on the performance that is achieved, these aspects. And when we have such a professional and an organization that values that, we have seen a successful application of VDC in facility management itself, and certainly also in bringing facility management as part of holistic optimization of a project from its very early stages through design, construction, and into operation, facility management, and beyond.
Muchísimas gracias, doctor Fischer, también por su respuesta a esta pregunta muy interesante. Ahora daremos pase a la siguiente pregunta, la cual me parece que estaría mejor direccionada para el magíster Pieter Scherer. ¿Dentro de la construcción subterránea es posible aplicar VDC? Me parece que se conecta bastante bien con los ejemplos que estaba comentando el magíster Pieter Scherer.
Yeah, from my experience, that what we also see from a lot of participants in the VDC program, especially in the master program, that tunneling is quite a lot. There are a lot of uncertainties in tunneling. Of course, some of them are related to the geology because you have a lot of unknown expectations there. Which kind of stone will be in the middle of the tunnel when you drill the hole, but yeah, you have also to ensure that the process is well organized, and if you have not facing any problems in underground situations, you can start proceeding a tunnel as you do it like in a building. So I see so much parallels between tunnels and buildings in terms of coordination, also workforce coordination. And if you look at the end of a project, when it comes to handover, it's quite important to have a secure tunnel. So then you have to test all the systems. And if you look at the the IPD simple framework, for example, you see that metrics and special simulations are quite important there. So predictance is really important in tunneling systems, and also the construction process to make it stable as possible.
Genial, genial. Gracias, ingeniero Peter. Continuando con las preguntas, esta va dirigida para el PhD Martin Fisher, la cual dice, ¿cómo el modelo POP, producto, organización y procesos, está ligado al VDC y cuál es su importancia? Adelante, doctor Martin.
So I will maybe briefly describe what POP is, and not assuming that everybody that's still in the conference is familiar with it, and then address the importance and then connection to VDC. POP stands for product, organization, and process. And it summarizes as a framework to think about the levers we have to optimize any project. If you think about it, these are the only things that are under your control where you can decide what to do something or not to do something. You can decide what should the product look like. Do we make a building with 5 floors or 6 floors? Do we have underground structure or not? Do we build a tunnel of this size or that size? Do we, etc. We are very used to these product-related decisions. That's what we often consider as design. But similarly, you can and must decide who is involved in the project and when. So who is the architect and structural engineer working together from the beginning, or is the architect working for a while and then the structural engineer, and so on? And what are their responsibilities? And then, as I already alluded to, we have to decide on the process, the workflows. And again, because we can decide, we must decide. And so the real design space, as we call it, is really made up of product, organization, and process. And sadly, we see too many times design understood as purely the design of the product. But that limits the options you have, and limits also thinking about the impact of the design, because if you choose a particular configuration of a project, of say an industrial building, you will enable certain production processes, you will enable certain work processes in facility management, etc. You will require certain costs that you might occur later. So when you take POP as the design space, you will think about the integration of product organization process from the beginning, and you will explore the entire design space you have. So you have a better chance of actually achieving an optimal project than if you just focus on one of them or focus on them sequentially. So in my mind, that's really the significance of POP. Then as part of the POP framework, which I have not yet mentioned, when we talk about any of those product organization process, we have to say what it is we want. We need to say what it is, and we need to check what we are getting, the performance we achieve. And that performance focus relates very well to VDC, because it focuses on the objectives that are essential, the project client objectives, essential part of VDC. And then basically the components of VDC, ICE, BIM, and PPM, you apply them to create a good design, to create a good construction schedule, a good facility maintenance approach, whatever you're designing. And so POP provides really the focus of attention for what's in the ICE session, what's in the building information model as understood more broadly, and in terms of the production, digital or virtual and physical, that is being managed. I hope this helps. Happy if others want to chime in as well, of course.
Muchísimas gracias, doctor Martin Fisher, por su respuesta. Definitivamente los fundamentos de POP están estrictamente ligados son de hecho la base de VDC si uno se pone a estudiar los primeros artículos. Muchas gracias por su respuesta. Pasaremos a la siguiente pregunta, la cual está dirigida para el PhD Eilif Helseth. Y la pregunta es, VDC en Noruega se aplicó VDC para obras de saneamiento y alcantarillado. Adelante, doctor Eilif.
Yeah, I can answer that very shortly. Also, we apply a VDC on every type of the built environment. That include building construction, whatever it is. And we also have very good experience as getting a professional from different disciplines to work together, because it's all about integration. And there we have, you have the facts from the BIM or the digital side. You have the scheduling and planning from PPM, also project production management, and you have the coordination with the ICE session. So we can apply it for every professional discipline. And I do think this interdisciplinarity is a key element in VDC. So the answer is yes.
Genial, ingeniero Eilif. Para responder ya la última pregunta, nos ha llegado bastantes preguntas con respecto a las grabaciones y a las presentaciones de los ponentes. Bueno, con respecto a ello, estaremos cargando el evento al playlist de la carrera de Ingeniería Civil, que la pueden encontrar en la plataforma de YouTube. Y también las presentaciones serán cargadas al repositorio de la Universidad de Lima. Igual los invitamos a seguirnos en nuestras redes sociales de la carrera de Ingeniería Civil, en Facebook, en LinkedIn y en Instagram. Adelante, José, te doy el pase.
Muchas gracias, Santiago. Antes de dar las palabras finales, quisiera consultarle al doctor Martin Fischer si quisiera dar unas palabras finales para esta segunda edición del Congreso Internacional VDC.
Mostly, I want to thank you, organizers. I know there have been many behind the scenes and now here publicly for the effort, for the vision of putting this second Congress together, for building the momentum of VDC in Latin America. But believe me, this is noticed not only in Latin America, it's really noticed everywhere, in the US, in Asia, in Europe. And for the openness you're creating about sharing experiences on projects with modern management methods, and in this way contribute to the learning of everybody from students to very experienced professionals. One of the really interesting comments I received, one of the most interesting comments for me in the last few years I received was actually from a VDC mentor in Latin America when we got going in the first program, and that mentor was working with 20 students, other professionals, and basically said, wow, in 1 month of working with these students from different projects and different roles, I learned more about the construction industry than in the last 10 years of doing, similar projects again and again. So this has been, already an amazing experience for me. And also want to congratulate you, students from the University of Lima, for engaging so well in this topic and becoming extremely knowledgeable and speak extremely well about VDC. So I'm very excited about the future because we have lots to learn. Also, as a question in the chat was, what do we do when we don't have an innovative mindset? In my experiences, when you bring multiple disciplines together, when you bring multiple generations together, even if you start without innovation, if you focus just in improving of process and collaboration and metrics, for example, sooner or later, somebody will come with an innovative idea. And the innovative idea can be just in adjusting process, or it can be in new technology, and probably all of it eventually. So the important thing, as already also, I think Eilif was also saying, the important thing is to start. And many of you have started, and if you haven't started, please do. And thank you again for allowing those of us that have started to keep going. And we have really seen, final comment, amazing leadership for many in Peru, really starting, in my personal experience, the collaborations I enjoyed having with Roberto Abulu for 20 years and more, and also with Leonardo Rischmüller, but then more recently, of course, with Alexandre and the many mentors and so on. So yeah, mostly a big thank you, and I'm excited to keep working together and to keep learning for all of our benefits.
Muchísimas gracias, doctor Martin Fischer, por sus encarecidas palabras de motivación, de fuerza y sobre todo de esperanza para el sector construcción, ¿no? De todo el mundo y cómo vamos alcanzando mejores resultados de forma integrada. Entonces, agradeciendo ya, terminando con esta primera fecha de nuestro segundo Congreso Internacional VDC, agradecemos fuertemente su participación de este evento y pues damos finalizado por este primer día. Agradecemos también nuevamente a los expositores Martin Fischer, Alexander Almeida, Eilif Hilsets y Peter Scherer por compartir sus experiencias y conocimientos en VDC. Daré un último llamado a los ponentes presentes para que sonrían para una última foto, la cual tomaré en este momento, así que 1, 2, 3. Perfecto. Muchísimas gracias nuevamente por estar presentes aquí y también un especial agradecimiento, como comentaba el doctor Fischer, a Elif y a Pieter, porque por la diferencia horaria me parece que han expuesto en la madrugada, creo que en Noruega son las 2 de la mañana, así que agradecemos fuertemente su dedicación y compromiso con este congreso. Ya para sin más que decir, los esperamos el día de mañana a las 18 horas, 6 p.m. hora Lima, en la segunda fecha del Congreso, donde trataremos el segundo eje del programa, optimización de procesos con VDC. Nuevamente agradecemos su participación y asistencia, y ya nos vemos el día de mañana. Muchas gracias y buenas noches.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, Martin, Peter, Eilif. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.